378, 379, 380T. You even case, bro?
With the purchase of a qualifying Intel processor, SSD, or NUC, you could instantly win an Intel gaming jersey and be entered in the draw for the ultimate system. Click now to learn more.
The 380T comes in a great soft packing foam, but I do find it a little bit funny that the box for the case that has a handle has no handles on it. Not that it's even really that important, because overall it's pretty light, I just kind of thought that was funny. Starting at the top, we have the handle itself, which at first glance looks fantastic. But upon further inspection, I was a little bit put off by the fact that I can't properly grip it due to my large hands, and in this case specifically, large knuckles. To be fair, there are ways that I can carry it, but grasping the handle by my fingertips or having my hand go in at an angle is not really ideal. When I try to grip it properly, my knuckle ends up digging into the plastic housing, and it's kind of highly uncomfortable, especially when you get some of the weight of a completely built system on the inside. It's kind of a lot. That being said, I had Linus try it and he loved it. The sizing was perfect for his tiny little hands, resulting in no issues on that front. Because of this, I will have Linus do the ogre test this time around, as I'm a little bit worried about my ogre test resulting in either the case smashing into the ground or a bruised knuckle for me. Also on the top, we have the I/O panel. You'll find power, reset, and fan control buttons alongside dual USB 3.0 ports and dual audio jacks. Due to the positioning and style of the start button, I was actually reminded of a push to start button for a car, which when looking at industrial design, at least in my opinion, that's a big compliment. Proceeding onwards, we have the actual front of the unit, which houses a massive fan grille and filter, which is very easily removed, and it will reveal a 140mm fan. If you desire, you can swap this 140mm fan out for either dual 120mm fans or a 200mm fan, which will provide a great deal of airflow to the unit. Both the side panels are identical and interchangeable gull wing, if it was kind of flipped upside down-esque doors, which in my opinion are super freaking cool. These doors, similar to the front of the case, are essentially just giant fan grills with filters, and yet again it will afford your case a great deal of airflow. Another thing to note is that these grills are all a honeycomb cut, so those of you that wanted this case because when you get it in yellow it roughly resembles a bee, there's something else for you as well. Just above the fan grills, we see both the handles for the doors and their little tiny windows, which I at first thought were kind of useless. And if you install a 240mm radiator when you have the chance on the right side window, it will pretty much just see the radiator and the radiator's fans. But the left side window will give you a nice view of your graphics card, and it will reveal a little bit of your motherboard as well. So that will be quite nice actually. Once we get to the back, there isn't really a ton going on except for the placement of a 120mm fan, so we're just going to move on to the bottom. Upon arrival, we are greeted by dual case feet, which unlike the BitPhoenix Prodigy's case feet, are actually quite strong and secure even when the case is filled and has some weight in it. Another thing you'll notice is the removable fan filter for your power supply, which goes very flush against the case to the point where I didn't even notice until I flipped the case over. A nice touch. Before we proceed inside, I must call to attention something great. There's been a trend I've been seeing lately which I hope is here to stay. This trend is to have a great deal of your case panels removable, allowing a modder to strip down the case most of the way by using screws instead of removing rivets. The Corsair 380T did not shy away from this trend, instead it decided to champion for it. You can fairly easily strip down the entire case to its small bare metal housing, and in some cases removing the panels even reveals some extra features. For instance, if you remove the top, which is essentially just the handle, you're greeted with some cable management options for the front I/O cables. Not something I expect a ton of people to notice or even find, but it's pretty freaking cool that they even included it. Finally, we go inside. In the bottom, you'll find a dual 2.5-inch drive cage, which uses a squeeze mount system to keep everything in place. Due to how loosely the system holds the drives in place, I wouldn't feel all that comfortable installing a 2.5-inch hard drive in there, but an SSD, which is what I expect to be installed in there by most people, will be totally fine. Behind that cage, you find the mounting area for the power supply. Installed here, I have an elegantly named Silverstone ST85F-GS. My reasoning for this is because it is the world's smallest fully modular ATX power supply, and it fits perfectly, but wasn't my first choice. My first choice was the RM850 from Corsair. I mean, it makes sense. It's yellow. Unfortunately though, it's too long. Corsair does have a solution allowing you to remove the dual 3.5-inch hard drive cage, which by the way is easy to install drives into due to its bendable tray system, but I wanted to install drives here. so that wasn't exactly an option for me. I would have liked to see Corsair have a solution for moving the hard drive cage elsewhere instead of removing it completely, or maybe having a single hard drive cage in the same style as their 2.5-inch cage, but on the other side. This wouldn't have been easy and would have possibly required expanding the frame of the case, but at least I could install their own color matching power supply and have at least one hard drive installed at the same time. In the top section, we have the horizontally mounted ITX motherboard placement, along with a cable management area, which could also be used for placement of your reservoir and or pump if you're looking to get into custom water cooling. This area is also outfitted with cable management loops, which I suggest using for stuff like your mostly nicely sleeved header cables, and especially for their far too freakishly long USB 3.0 header cable, which at least you can be sure won't be too short. In the top of the case, you'll find a nice on-off switch that can be used to control your LED, which looks down onto the middle of your motherboard, and I'm happy you're able to control this LED, although I wish the switch was on the outside of the case. Last but not least, there's the radiator mounting, which is surprisingly easy to utilize. Due to the hook-on style, which is secured in place by 4 screws, you're able to easily remove the radiator while it is still attached to the rails, allowing you to move the radiator away while it is still actually installed, making this case, which at first glance seemed very cramped, actually quite open and easy to work on. In conclusion, I'm actually quite happy about the 380T. Due to its handle and small overall size, it will be a great LAN rig, and the doors are freaking badass. If you decide to get this case, I hope you're ready to open and close those doors a lot, because if you ever bring this thing LANing, everyone's going to want to see how they work. Its feet are very solid, and overall, once everything is installed, the case is quite rigid, giving me confidence that it will be okay even if I haul it with me around to events, which I will be doing at least once. I'm going to be taking this rig with me to PAX Prime, as unfortunately I'm still waiting on some parts for my personal rig.
Speaking of champions, I am the champion of Intel's Game On contest. Well, I'm not really, but you could be if you're at PAX Prime on the show floor and wearing one of their Game On buttons. They have a few teams running around the show floor handing out prizes to people who are wearing the buttons, so pay attention to @IntelUSA for hints on where those teams will be so you can get your prizes. Now, Game On has been pretty successful in the past, I know firsthand, but it has always lacked a component for everyone who isn't attending PAX Prime. Intel is going to be running a create your own button contest through Twitter, and they will be giving away, I can't really say right now, but trust me, it's going to be awesome and you are going to want one. More info on that fairly soon. We want you guys to be creative. Use the Intel Game On button, this one right here, to craft your own version however you want. Maybe design one on your computer, maybe have an arts and crafts day like we did, or even, I don't know, bake a cupcake. It's up to you, so get creative and submit your designs to @IntelUSA on Twitter using #IntelGameOn until August 29th. Also check out iJustine's button creation and let Intel know if she wore it better than me on Twitter. I think you know the real answer to that unless you are a peasant among warriors. So that was weird. Anyways, if you guys liked this video, please like it, dislike it, favorite it, share it, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of stuff. In the comments down below, let me know if you guys are interested in these like tiny little miniature LAN rigs. Also, if you want to let me know somewhere else, jump over to the forum and let me know there. While you're on the forum, if you don't like the ads, you can become a contributor and get rid of all of them. And if you click that support us icon thing on the right-hand side, you can learn how to change your Amazon links so that every time you go to Amazon, we get a little kickback, and we would appreciate that a ton. Thank you guys for watching. Please excuse the costume, and I'll see you next time.